So today I'm joined by Claire Etherington, and I met Claire a few years ago now, about 4 years ago, when I was pulling together a menopause awareness program for leaders in her organisation, and she kindly volunteered to be a case study for the program to share her story. Claire's had an experience with early menopause, and I think it's a really important story to share because sometimes we think menopause purely happens between the typical age of 45 and 55. And as Claire's story explains, that's not the case. So thanks for joining me, Claire. I appreciate you
You're
giving me
welcome.
the time. Um, so, um, so you're a team leader in an organisation, Claire, aren't you? So you've got quite a stressful, busy job. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay, good. Well, let's start at the beginning. I know when was it you had women's health issues, and about what age were you when all that happened, and what actually happened?
So I'd had three children. Well, I'd actually had two children when the first pain started. And I went to doctors. It just literally pains that were really, really bad
Yeah.
each month, after periods.
Okay.
Um, when I went to doctors, they just put it down to women's problems and you'll be fine. And it started going from each day just to really, really worse.
Right.
And I was diagnosed with endometriosis
Okay.
at probably about the age of 22.
Okay. Right.
I was told that I probably wouldn't have children, any more children, but I did actually manage to have one more child.
Okay.
But yeah, it's diagnosed with endometriosis.
So
Uh,
how old were you when you had your third child?
Um, gosh, I'm just trying to remember how old I was. I think I was about 20, 26.
Okay.
Yeah, 26.
And then what happened to your health in terms of your endometriosis after that?
So it deteriorated a little bit because back then doctors weren't really even aware of endometriosis.
Right.
There were no symptoms you could Google or anything because Google just back then it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really anything that anybody would use.
Yeah.
Um, don't even know if it were available back then. So you were sort of going through books, medical books, just to try and find what this could be.
Right.
I got sent to a hospital appointment, gynecologist, and then they put it down to having a laparoscopy to try and find out what were going on.
Right.
And then yeah, they came back with endometriosis. Um, Basically a pain that's there every month, what's going on inside, starts affecting your ovaries, your tubes, um, your womb, your bowel, everything. It starts gluing together. So it makes life really difficult when you're having your period each month.
So I don't want to ask you too much of a medicalized question, but how would you summarize what endometriosis is for people who don't know?
Oh gosh, it's a tricky one that because I don't really know the medical terminology of it, but all I can explain is there's such a pain there that it's really hard to describe how bad it is until it's there again.
Yeah.
A bit
And
like toothache and earache, like once it's there, you know
yeah.
that it's there, and you sort of forget, but you know that it's worse pain that you could have.
And how many days a
Um,
month would you be suffering with that?
about 2 weeks, our months.
Oh, goodness.
I will literally it's like a stabbing sign, a stabbing feeling inside.
Uh-huh.
And it literally it's like a cramp, but it's tearing you apart inside.
Oh, goodness.
And I would just put on so much medication whilst working, tramadol, 8 a day, as well as paracetamol, ibuprofen, um, oxynorm, which is a lot stronger than tramadol. and really hard to make you function, and especially around family life. It was just really difficult,
Yes.
really difficult. But luckily for me, I had a lot of support.
So how did it then progress to early menopause for you? What happened?
So the only way that you can cure endometriosis once it's there is by starting to have some of it taken away. So I had my first operation where they started cutting away at some endometriosis inside. It literally it started to feel a lot better afterwards,
Yeah.
but then it every month it started getting to be the same. So it ended up where I had 11 operations,
Oh my goodness.
like just cutting tubes away, cutting like it out of my bowel, cutting it off my ovaries. Eventually where I just had, just little bits left. But obviously I still had my womb, which and other parts that allowed me to still have periods.
Right.
And that's obviously at that point it's causing the pain. It ended up where they said we're gonna have to do a hysterectomy, a full hysterectomy, where they removed all tubes, all my ovaries, my womb, and ended up where it it happened, and I didn't really know what I were going in for. I just knew this pain were gonna go away.
Right.
That's all I wanted. So I agreed to it.
Right. And how old
Um,
were you at that point?
uh, Probably 30, 31.
Okay.
So relatively young to be going through a full hysterectomy.
So did anybody tell you you'd go through menopause at that point?
No, not in so many words. It, I knew the pain were gonna go, so I probably heard that more than I heard anything else.
Yes. Yeah.
I knew it had resolved the endometriosis,
Mm.
um, and I'd get my freedom back in my life. So that I probably heard that a lot more than what I heard about anything else. But what I did get is they gave me like a leaflet. It must have been 2 pages, if that. Again, Google things like that. You just didn't. It wasn't known. Um, they just told me that I'll have an operation. It'll get rid of the endometriosis. The next morning you will feel different
Mm.
because you're going to be having a full hysterectomy. And you'll go through menopause. But they didn't tell me what that entailed.
And what did it entail for you? What happened?
So I just remember waking up the next morning, and obviously I don't think I felt any different other than I was sort of relieved it had been done.
Hmm.
I knew that I was going to be in hospital quite a while because there were a few complications. Um, I just remember the month after that all of a sudden um it just hit me like I felt different in myself, the moods, the hot flushes,
Hmm.
just everything my body ate. I wasn't put on HRT either, when I had my operation.
Right.
Um, they just literally just let me have my operation. I didn't know about HRT other than my mum going on it, like when I was young.
Right. Okay.
But the symptoms were just unreal. It were unbearable.
What symptoms did you have?
It, I could have just, like just a normal day of life, just somebody saying something to me in a different tone, or um, kids at that point leaving just something out. I was just crying, upset, shouting, angry, really confused. Um,
Yeah.
the it, my body just felt different.
Mm.
I felt different.
Yeah.
No look the same anymore.
And any physical symptoms you remember that came up?
Aching, really aching. Joints in your wrist, your fingers. I mean, I'm obviously working on a computer in my job. Just things like that I found really, really difficult. Even just getting up in the morning because I've had no sleep because of all these symptoms. It was just difficult. My legs hurt a lot.
Any dreaded hot flushes?
Awful. Just horrible. And they're embarrassing as well because I don't know whether they're visible to anybody. I mean, I didn't exactly, like I didn't look like I'd been sweating or anything like that, but it almost comes up from your toes. It like starts at your toes and goes all the way. It's the way I could only describe it to the doctor back then was it was almost like I put my toe under a tap in a tap and somebody had switched the tap on, a hot tap,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was going all the way up my body. And
Right.
that's how it felt.
Yeah.
Horrible.
It sounds horrible. So it doesn't sound like you had a huge amount of support from the medical profession on that element.
No,
Am I wrong? I don't
no.
think so. What
Um,
about, sorry.
you're not wrong. But I don't honestly think back then it was a massive thing like it is now.
Okay.
I don't think many doctors even knew half of the symptoms that people have. It was just well, you will have them symptoms because you've had a hysterectomy.
Yeah. It's a very matter of fact. What
Mm.
about your leader at work? How did that work? You going back to work and having to sort of adjust?
So
How were they?
I've been really lucky. Um, I've I've only been so I mean, what were it? It were 24 years ago that I had my hysterectomy. And I've only been in two places of work. I've worked full time all the time. Um, you know, I were at one place 10, 11 years, very supportive, paid for when I were off having operations. So that really helps massively,
Yeah, yeah.
in yourself in general.
Mm-hmm.
But people were supportive at work. I just think I was lucky where I worked,
Yeah,
to be honest. And the job I'm in now, I've been here 10 years. And again, I've just been massively supported. My place of work do recognise the menopause.
mm,
So, I mean, you've helped massively with that, bringing awareness and just bringing people being able to speak about it. I think that's one of the main issues that back when I had my hysterectomy, it wasn't something you spoke about the menopause.
mm.
It were almost looked at like you were, you were done for because you've finished now, you've had your hysterectomy. That's it. I only recognised it had been old people that had that.
Yeah, yeah. How was it going through that at such a young age? How did it impact you mentally?
Mentally, I think it did because I had to deal with it myself. I mean, again, I've been really supported with my family.
Mm-hmm.
My husband has just been absolute amazing throughout.
Mm.
Um, is the kids, all of them, because it hasn't just been about the menopause, it was the endometriosis as well.
Yeah, yeah.
They've they've missed out on a lot of things from me, I think, just even school assemblies,
Mm.
not being able to get there and me mentally, I think it really did affect me. But I personally think I've been one of the lucky ones because of the support I've had. I dread to think how I'd have dealt with it if I hadn't have had that support.
Having a great support networks helps you get
Massive,
through it, even though it's
massive.
been really, really hard.
Yeah.
Um, do you think people are aware of early menopause and the fact that it can happen at any age? What do you think about that?
No, I think it's more aware. People are more aware now, because we're speaking about it.
Mm.
Would they be more aware of it if there wasn't in a workplace that didn't have the access to everything that we've had?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, actually. I don't think people would. Although it's spoke about on TV, and it's on, social networking and things like that. I don't personally believe that everybody fully understands when they can go through it.
Yeah.
I keep saying I'm really lucky, but I've got an incredible team that I work with that I've known for quite a lot of years, and we're all open to this discussion. The majority on my team are women,
Yes.
um, and all of us have discussed the menopause, and I've got a few on my team that think that they're going through the perimenopause.
Right.
And we regularly speak about it, but
Yeah.
I honestly think that is because it's been brought to our workplace and allowed us to discuss that.
It's amazing as well, Claire, isn't it? How many women go through the perimenopause and they don't know what it is. So they're
Yeah,
really alarmed. It's like, why have I got anxiety, brain fog? Why do I not feel the same? Why does my body hurt? They're asking all these questions without connecting the dots. And I often make a joke on our programs that, unfortunately, we don't get a text message to inform us we started our perimenopause. And because actually, a lot of women and men are not equipped with the data about menopause because we don't really want to think about it until we have to think about it, do we really?
absolutely.
It's like, so it's a surprise. And actually, we don't actually connect those dots. I think for me, that's something I see again and again running programs is you might have 40-year-old women who don't know hardly anything about this because it's actually something we don't want to think about, honestly.
Yeah, you do. It's just one of them phases in your life that you probably don't want to meet. You don't want to go through it.
No.
It it I don't know. I think when I was younger, I always thought it happened to old people. And I
Yeah.
think that still does sort of exist, that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's almost like you think, yeah, you've met that age now and you're going through menopause, life will change drastically for you, and there's almost that stigma of that, and I think you start believing that, but things are a lot different now, and there's so much help now.
Yeah, and I think it is that typical age, isn't it? 45 to 55. But actually, we know perimenopause could happen about 40 for a lot of women,
Hmm.
So actually, well, every day is a school day when it comes to menopause. We're learning every week, every month about it. And actually, women who are maybe 50 now, are still quite young. They're in the prime of their careers. It's like there's a lot of stuff we need to sort of readjust, I think, in our knowledge. Um, but you know me, I'm all for this. It's about how do we break down those stereotypes because they're not very helpful, they're not very
Yeah.
useful. So can I just ask you a little bit about your treatment, Claire? Because
Mhm.
obviously you said you went on HRT after your hysterectomy, but so what happened to, did you feel like you had to take medication to get back on track? What did you do?
Yeah, so the way that the doctor explained it, not the actual surgeon, but the doctor explained it, they said that normally you go through menopause and you climb in, so things are happening
Yeah.
gradually. It says the
Yeah.
way that you've gone through it, is basically it's not your choice, it wasn't your body's choice. So
Mm.
you've gone through it like it sort of crashed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need some chemicals to bring you back to being you. So they gave me, I think it was a month afterwards, they gave me HRT, a tablet that I just like even still have to take now. I'm not over menopause because my body were never meant to go through menopause at so young. So I've just gone through it a lot longer, than what probably other people would go through it. But I had HRT that I took every day. That did start to help, especially with aches and pains. Um, because again, I was young when I had it. If I hadn't been taken the HRT, it can lead to, is it
Osteoporosis.
osteoporosis? Yeah, because your bones are still, but I do take it every day. There is the occasional time that I'll battle with myself thinking, oh, I'll be over it and I don't want to take a tablet anymore every day.
Mhm.
And I try it for a few days and then realise, why did I try that? Just take it. It's not going to harm me.
And there's no medals for battling on, is there? I think that's a really important message.
Yeah,
You know, I'm not here to advocate HRT. It works for a lot of people. Some people can't take it. But it's not about toughing this out. It's about giving my body what it needs, isn't it? And it's different for everyone. I'll leave that there because I'm saying some people can't take HRT. They have to find a
yeah.
different route. And is that progesterone and estrogen you take? Is it 2 tablets?
Yeah, it is. It's like it is actually all in one tablet.
Okay.
So it's a bit easier. But I think you start to resent the fact that you're having to take it, and it's been that I've been on so many tablets since I were so young, just for for the endometriosis and the um like the menopause, that I just one day I just want to wake up and not have to take a tablet. So
Yeah.
I just think I get it into my head and just think, I'm going to try it this time. But no, within 5 days, everything comes back.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
hot flushes, the aches. The aches are probably the worst.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's what makes me realise that I'm not actually over it yet. The memory side of it, I think that whether you take HRT or not, it'll never help. I've got a shocking memory.
Yeah.
Um, and I do a lot of stuff to try and help me with that, like a lot of lists, and
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than put it on my computer, I also write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the best with my memory anymore.
No, and we know like memory fog and brain fog and memory are huge symptoms, aren't they? And they really can impact your self-esteem, can't they? Things like that.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely. You say silly things, like you speak out loud, and you don't even realize you're doing it.
we all say silly things.
Yeah, I'm sure it just happens anyway in normal life, but I think with the menopause, I do think there's a lot to be said for it.
Yeah. So what do you think employers and I guess leaders in particular can do to
Mhm.
support colleagues going through menopause?
Be supportive. I think that's the main thing. Not everybody's going to go through menopause the same way. Some people fly through it, some people don't.
Mhm.
Some people are in the middle and they
Mhm.
just need that little bit of help. It isn't all about taking HRT and then life's going to be great, because it isn't like that.
Mhm.
You have to have somebody listening to you. You have to have somebody supporting you. Just that network of being able to do that, and that freedom of being able to speak to people
Mhm.
rather than saying you're here to do a job. You work 9 to 5. You can't, speak about it to anybody in that time. Having them little platforms, knowing that it's there if you need to go speak to anybody or anything, that you're a bit concerned about,
Mhm.
it, it should be there. We've got champions, with that, that's brilliant. People can discuss it with them if they're not comfortable speaking with their own leader.
Right, yeah. It's a good idea, isn't it? Having a group of menopause champions that are there as a sounding another part of the support network, I guess, if you don't feel comfortable speaking to your leader. I guess thinking for me, I'll always want to equip the leaders to be able to do this. What do you think the leaders need to sort of feel comfortable and be ready to support? I mean, you're a leader as well as somebody going through this, so
Yeah, I mean, they need the knowledge of it as well.
mm,
Um, because even, just thinking about my husband, if if he hadn't have been so supportive with me going to the doctors and going to the hospital and going through it all with me
mm,
and interested in it, then how could he be supportive to something that he doesn't know about?
mm,
So having the knowledge behind them, um, to be able to support somebody else is really important. I could support my team because I'm aware of it. I understand it, so I can support them, anytime.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you know, some leaders are not. It's they've not been through it. They've not got anybody in the family that's been through it.
yeah, yeah.
So the research and being having that accessible is the most important.
It's hard, isn't it, to empathise with something you've not been through yourself, which
Yes.
is a big part of any development, I think. So I guess my last question to you, Claire, is what advice have you got for anybody else going through early menopause? Have you got any sort of nuggets of or thoughts on that?
I think being able to speak about it is the main thing and the ultimate thing, because if you're not able to speak about it,
Yeah.
you know, you're not going to be able to get that help.
Mm,
It's okay going to the doctors, but you know, everybody's individual. So your case may be very different to another one, and you're probably just going to get the same sort of answer saying that you're just going through menopause.
mm,
It, things need to be catered for. So speaking about it is the first thing, but being able to speak about it, I think, is the most important. If
yeah.
you're at home, you might not be able to speak about it. You might not have that supportive family. So the workplace, I think, for me, is really important that
Mm,
people are able to go somewhere, speak about it, and have that person to be able to listen to them.
yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that's all what somebody wants, right? To
It
be heard.
is.
Right.
And it doesn't just apply to the women. You know, there's some men at work that are going through exactly the same thing with their wives.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it might be the wife that ain't opening up and the husband wants them to open up. So we've got to have support for them also.
I think that's an amazingly important point because I think it can be quite a lonely place for a man supporting a woman going through menopause if they're not opening up.
It is, because the
Mm,
relationship can break down,
yeah.
and that's not what anybody wants.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing today, Claire. Have you got any last thoughts before we close off our little chat today?
No, I'm really glad I've done it. I'm really nervous.
Oh,
But I think it'll be a good thing if anybody is going through anything, and you know, just being able to think about what they can say if they're not sure, or if they've got any of the symptoms, just to get checked. You can have a blood test, you know, and start on medication if you're able to do that. But there's a lot of other things, as you know, that you can do to help.
yeah. Well, thank you. I think this will help a lot of people, Claire, and I appreciate your time. It's lovely to see you as
Thank
always, and
you.
I hope I'll see you soon. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thank you, Mel.